We've looked at the importance of placing a consistent emphasis on your church's worship and its preaching and teaching. Now we're going to talk about the third and final main area of focus that isn't overlooked as much as it is maybe misunderstood and misapplied. Welcome to Church Media HQ, your church's one source for graphics, websites, videos, and all things creative. I'm Luke Clayton, and thanks for joining me. Also, make sure that you are subscribed so that you'll be the first to know when we release new content like this. Church doesn't become complicated as a result of your worship or preaching. So it's not that the fact that you're having church every Sunday and preaching every Sunday, that makes your church complex or complicated. No, this last area we're going to talk about is really the mother of all complexity in church, but it's also critical to the health and growth of your church, which is why it must be done and done correctly. And this is the emphasis of connection. These are opportunities your church offers outside of your main worship services. So small groups, events and activities, maybe service and outreach teams, things like that. The problem with these is that with too many of them or doing some of them done maybe incorrectly, they tend to bog down your church's schedule and programming, and they can definitely take a lot of unnecessary media and marketing energy. So that's why each avenue of connection needs to meet three important criteria. Before I get to these, I have worked with many churches over the years, and I have worked with really two types. There is the attractional church and the relational church. Now, look, I know that some of you out there might feel like I'm overstepping a little bit, and I'll address that here in a moment. But the truth is that the attractional churches require so much effort, energy, because it's always about the next big thing, the next big event or the next big Sunday or whatever it may be. Whereas the relational churches, they do a great job of keeping a focus on worship and teaching, and their connection opportunities tend to meet these three criteria. And here they are. The first one is obviously one of these connection opportunities needs to help people connect with others. And that's pretty redundant to say, but obviously it needs to provide that element of connection with other believers and other people, in their same stage as far as where they are in terms of their faith is, rather, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty obvious. So it needs to connect people with others. But the next thing it needs to do is it needs to also be helping people to take their next step. So getting them to take them from where they are to where they need to go next in their faith walk and in their level of engagement at your church. Then the third thing that it needs to do is it needs to have an element of outward priority and serving others. And the thing that I see is that some of these connection opportunities, they might lean more towards one of these than the others. If you're doing percentages, they might be, 50% of one and 25% of the other two or whatever. But all three of these should always be present and incorporated to some extent into every opportunity. And because this is going to ensure intentionality, and it's also going to prevent, the social clubs. It'll prevent the things that happen because, again, connection, the connection that's going to happen with others, that's just organically going to come with opportunities like this. But if we're not intentional about making sure that it's helping people take their next step and that it's also giving people the opportunity to serve and reach out to people outside of the church, well, that is going to create kind of more of a social club environment. And before you know it, your church has a lot of activities and opportunities that are more about serving itself than other people. So, look, maybe there's some skeptics out there saying, okay, look, you're kind of veering out of your lane, aren't you? I thought this was about marketing, not telling me how to preach and run my church. And look, hey, I get it. But your best avenue of marketing for your church will always be the people of your church. There's no hack that I can give you, no secret or tip or trick that I can share that is going to be more effective than having a church that prioritizes worship, preaching and teaching, and also having this element of connection in a way that's outward focused. Cultivating this outward reaching mindset of service to others will make your church more inviting and welcoming to outsiders. Even in the business world, there's nothing more valuable in terms of marketing than creating a culture within your organization that invites others. And there's nothing more powerful than a word of mouth referral. It blows away all other elements and avenues of marketing by far. So what can you do right now? Well, take a look at your church's upcoming calendar and the programs that you have and the ministries, and try to position them in one of these three categories we've been talking about here in this part of the series. So worship, teaching, connection. If you're struggling to find a place for something, then perhaps you should, I hate to say it, but you might need to eliminate it. Or if nothing else, you need to restructure it and rework it so that that program, and in particular of a connection opportunity, is fulfilling all three things: helping people connect, helping them take their next step, and having an element of outward focus and service. Now, what can we do for you here at Church BD HQ? Well, we've already discussed it, but I want to remind you about our 90 days of media and marketing plan that we develop for you for free. You simply share some info and we give you a plan. And in that process, we also help you decide how all of the events and ministries and information you share, how it fits into these three categories. So if you haven't yet, get started on this 90-day plan. Again, it's completely free. You'll find it right there at churchbdhq.com/start. So what we've discussed so far has been pretty foundational and, yes, again, somewhat philosophical. So as we move forward, we're going to get into more of the practical as we begin to explore the specific avenues of media and marketing. We are your church's one source for graphics, websites, videos, and all things creative. And I'll see you next time right here on Church Media HQ.